I'm done. It's over. Only one more season. What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here, and this is The Flash Season 8, Episode 19, Negative, Part 1. I don't care. It's stuff's just happening. We apparently have negative forces now because don't ask me why, don't ask me how. They just exist. They function the exact same as the normal forces because it would be too difficult to try to think of something clever for how the negative still force would be different than the still force, or how the negative fear force or strength, I don't even remember what they are anymore, but how all of them react, all of that, it would be too hard to come up with a clever way that they act differently. They act the opposite of the normal forces. So we're just going to say that they're negative and they're evil, and that's the only reason why they're negative. It's because they're evil. Yeah, that's basically it. And frankly, I don't even really understand what the plan was or how it worked, but essentially they got Barry to put the negative force inside of Eobard, or have Mina share it with him, and then had Barry kill Iris somehow. They knew exactly how he was going to do it. They knew that he was going to throw lightning at them, and then Dion, or I guess negative Dion, snapped his fingers and made Iris appear, and then he kills Iris, and then that for some reason causes Iris to go inside of Eobard, and then that brings back Reverse Flash. Does does anybody want to explain what the hell just happened? Or am I just supposed to sit here and go, oh, that makes sense? Which, to be fair, it's not like I want them to explain what happened because, my God, the exposition in the show is still the worst. Everything to do with Cecile, once again, exposition central. Everything to do with her powers, talking to Vertigo, going and talking to the one lady from the card people or whatever. I the Royal Flush Gang, was that it? I don't even care. It was so dumb that they got introduced, and now all of a sudden here we are again. They've got to be important, and Cecile has to be important, so she's becoming one of the most powerful metas the world has ever seen. What? She could just suddenly suck people's meta powers away from them? What? How does that make any sense? Outside of, we need Cecile to be important, so boom, she's more powerful than ever now. That work? Is everybody okay with that? No? Well, too bad. That's what we're going with. And what made me laugh even harder was the fact that whenever she's in the prison and she's like, why is this happening to me? All I could think was, well, we all know why it's happening. It's because the writer said so. The writers think you're important, or I guess the producers think you're important, so they told the writers to write it to where now all of a sudden you can just suck people's powers away and become even more powerful. Isn't that just so awesome, guys? The way that we just wrote that in there for her. And speaking of writing, can we stop with the whole somebody makes a powerful speech and then other characters around them go, oh, that was really good? Because basically that is the writers writing something into the script and then writing another character to pat themselves on the back and go, oh, that speech right there that we wrote, yeah, that speech was really good. I wonder who wrote that speech. It's so stupid and self-gratifying to have a character say that something that you wrote, a speech that you wrote, is really good. Do you realize how stupid that sounds? If I were to give a speech that somebody else wrote for me and somebody came up and congratulated me for it, that would be dumb because somebody else wrote the speech for me. So it's not me. I may have delivered the speech well, but somebody wrote it for me. Those words were not my own. But the thing is, this is not somebody outside of the show coming in and saying, hey, writing team, you did a good job. This is the writing team writing a character to say that what they wrote was super good. How ridiculous is that? But the scene that I'm speaking of in particular is obviously early on whenever Mina's going through her whole, oh, I'm not a hero, I'm not this and that, and Barry gives her a speech and she tells him it's a really good speech. And let's just talk about Mina because all of this is so stupid. She created this thing that was causing problems. She created this negative Speed Force device that's causing problems. Why would she continue? Why would Barry let her continue with that? And I get that it's not really his decision to tell her what to do or what not to do, but what's the point? You know now that the negative Speed Force is bad. So just because Barry said, oh, no, you can control it, now all of a sudden you're like, yeah, let's keep working with this awful thing then. Hey, that atomic bomb you built, hey, guess what? You can control it, so let's keep working with. Like, that's basically what you're doing. I just don't understand why she has to be a speedster to begin with. I mean, has Barry been struggling this season? No, he's been getting better and better all season long. So why all of a sudden are we just Yeah, let's make Mina a speedster. Let's make it to where she deserves to be one. She's a hero, guys. Why? This character we've never met before, and before 2 episodes ago or three, whenever it was. All of a sudden now she's a big deal and a big speedster, and she's gonna be the best thing ever. You can't just write this into the show. You can't just write these lines talking about how amazing she is and suddenly expect us to feel it, because I don't. I'm sitting here questioning, why on earth is she a speedster to begin with? Why are we pushing this storyline? Because it doesn't add anything, and what it leads to is, well, now the Reverse Flash is back. I'm not going to sit here and heavily critique her acting, but whether it's her or whether it's the director, it's bad. It's pretty bad. Like, she does her normal scenes fine whenever she's talking like a normal person, but anytime she's a speedster, it's bad. The mask looks stupid on her. Her acting whenever she's running, or especially whenever she was absorbing the negative lightning into her, that scene just brought back memories of another certain belly dancer that we saw in another DC movie that was awful. Like, the way she was holding on and just sort of doing this the whole time, like shaking that belly around. I'm just like, did we not see Suicide Squad? But before digging into the final fight and all of the problems with that, the Iris stuff, her showing up in the future, Nora and Bart, I don't understand why the show can't just let it go. Why can't we just, hey, time travel, not something that we should be doing. Not something that we should be focused on. We should not be focused on going to the future and visiting Barry's future kids. We shouldn't be doing any of that because it negates so much. And in this episode, here we go. We've got Iris disappears in the future, and now all of a sudden, oh, we don't know what's going to happen anymore. That's how it always should be. It shouldn't be saved for the final 2 episodes, this feeling of we don't know what's going to happen, because it takes all of the tension away from the story. And now all of a sudden trying to inject it back in by having, oh, now we don't know what's going to happen anymore. The timeline is changing. It should have been already. We shouldn't have known what was going to come, because then we might actually worry about what's going to happen to Iris. We've not been worried, and now all of a sudden they want us to worry. Literally a few seconds before she gets killed by Barry, all of a sudden now it's a big deal. All of a sudden now we have to worry because what's going to happen with Iris now? We don't know anymore. You realize how stupid that sounds? That we don't know what's going to happen anymore until a few seconds before. Literally building up to this episode, we feel no tension, and then suddenly you want us to try to feel tension. How does that work? There was also a random scene with Caitlin and Mark, which I just don't even care about, so I'm not even going to talk about it because it's stupid. But the final fight scene, all of it's really ridiculous. We have Mina giving Eobard her power because you can just do that now, apparently. I know it has to be somebody you really care about and you have to open yourself up, but it just seems ridiculous that you could just make anybody a speedster as long as you're close enough with them. Did we all just forget about the Incredibles? Did we all forget what the main villain's plot was? If everyone's super, nobody is. And the Flash is like, everyone's super, and it's super. Everybody should be super, guys. Everybody should have superpowers. Nobody should be left out. Yeah, that makes everybody who does have superpowers feel a lot less special, doesn't it? Don't you feel less special now? Because whatever makes you super unique doesn't matter. Because everybody can do it, not just you. Don't you feel super important and unique now? No? Well, there you go. That's why this storyline's stupid. But we see everybody else, Allegra, Cecile, Chester, they're all going to stop the negative forces from showing up to give them time to have this speed transfer happen. Cecile, Allegra, and Chester, we're going to have them halt the negative speed forces. Let that sit for a second in your brain. Barry was barely able to stop them, and it took a lot of his power. It took most of his power to stop them. But now, Allegra, Chester, and Cecile are going to stop them. So when I saw that was how we were starting the final battle here, I laughed, but then I also suddenly stopped laughing because I realized, oh wait, no, we're actually doing this. We're actually having them stop them for a little bit. We're actually having them buy some time for our main heroes. It wasn't just a joke. It wasn't just a, these three, Still Force stops them in their place and just walks right past. No, we actually do have them manage to stop them a little bit. So let's talk about why this is dumb. First of all, Still Force, apparently he has to snap his fingers. That's the only way he can use his powers. Why? So that way Cecile can stop him from snapping his fingers. It's like Thanos and the Infinity Gauntlet, right? As long as he doesn't snap, he can't use the Infinity Gauntlet. The Still Force. Nothing to do with his hand. It has anything to do with his powers. It's not like his powers exist only in his hands. He is what makes him powerful. The power is inside of him. So why all of a sudden is I can't snap my fingers. I can't use my powers anymore. What? What? Chester puts up some sort of energy barrier. I don't understand why this negative strength force can't just walk over to him and just punch the crap out of him and kill him in an instant, because it's not like he's super powerful. He's just good with mechanics and electronics and stuff. But for some reason, she has to do this super goofy jump up in the air to slam down, which gives him time to put this thing down that traps her in a bubble. So that's stupid. Apparently, it's some sort of inverse energy thing. So now any of her power gets reflected back at her. Okay, clever idea, but then she rips out of it. So what was that supposed to do again? Reflect her power back at her? Then why is her power ripping through it? Because we can't actually have her stopped, because it's got to be a showdown between these three negative forces and the three speedsters that we're about to have. So we can't have them actually be stopped. So whatever Chester just built, no, it doesn't actually work how he said. It sounds good. It sounds like it's going to keep her trapped. So that way we have a little bit of hope as the audience that maybe they can stop them. Right. And then Allegra and the fear force or whatever it is, stupid. I mean, first of all, the fact that he's playing with her, he's teasing her, basically. Like they're there to slow them down, to buy some time for Barry and the other two. What's funny is they don't even really do much. The fear force is just sitting there going, oh, ooh, 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 spooky, scary, ooh. He's wasting his own time instead of just being done with her. Instead of just putting the fear in their minds. Like, what was funny about it is I thought, okay, so Cecile and him are going to go head to head because they both have like the telepathy or whatever you want to call it. They have that to go up against each other. So they're going to be sort of going off. I don't know who's going to go up against the Still Force because, again, all he has to do is just use his powers and they're all frozen solid. They can't move. And then the Strength Force, I mean, I guess Allegra and her can go up head to head, like strength against the power of light or whatever. I don't know. No, we have Allegra going up against him, and it just makes no sense because he just basically is sitting there dodging in and out, dodging her attacks while she's just walking around doing this the whole time, and then doing this, and then and I'm just watching her going, this poor girl, man. Could you imagine as an actor or an actress, you land this awesome role in this show? And you're just like, nice, I get to be a part of a really cool show. It's a lot of seasons, big fan base. This is cool. And then cut forward a few seasons, and this is what you're reduced to, is walking around like this, looking really nervous. And then this stupid little motion, and then doing this again. You look like an idiot. I feel so bad for her because this is what she was probably told to do. Like, no, you gotta, it's like walking around with your gun cocked. Your gun is your hand, so walk around with them cocked and ready to go. You've just made this poor girl look like a total moron. Oh, it's pathetic. To top off all of this stupidity, we have Dion eventually overpowers Cecile because he had to just snap his fingers. And so finally he manages to be more powerful in his fingers than her abilities and manages to get the snap off. And he snaps him outside. And then they go outside, and he plans to snap them out of existence. Why didn't you just snap them out of existence to begin with then? Why snap them outside and then snap them out of existence? I just imagine you have this weird supervillain, and for some reason his powers go in his right hand, he's got the ability to shoot a death beam. In his left hand, he's got the ability to shoot a teleport beam. And so he's fighting off against a superhero, and he's trying to get the upper hand, finally manages to get the upper hand, manages to shoot a beam at him. He shoots the teleport beam at him. Like, the superhero is completely incapacitated, lying on the ground. All he has to do is just kill him, and he shoots a teleport beam to bring him a little bit closer. And actually, that's what's funny. He didn't even bring him closer. He shot him outside for some reason. So yeah, shoots him outside of the building that they're fighting in, walks outside, and then powers up his death beam to shoot the hero. Why? Oh, because the fight would look cooler if it were outside around all these cars where we can throw people up against them and have them break and shatter. And ooh, isn't that so cool? Sure, I guess it looks cool. Does it make any sense though? No. So why do it? Well, because it looks cool. Okay, that can't be a reason for everything. You can't just say, oh, it looks cool, and then that's it. But the fight itself is just kind of dumb. Barry easily takes down the Fear Force and the Strength Force. We got Mina and Eobard going up against the Still Force, managed to punch him away, but then he knocks them back. And then all of a sudden, the three forces are standing next to each other again, and the three speedsters are standing next to each other again. Just like, okay, so basically nothing happened. Like, we saw some punches, we saw some powers used, and then we're just back to where we started with three of them standing next to each other on both sides. And then again, Barry decides to do this lightning thing. Don't know what it was supposed to do. Don't know what Mina and Eobard were supposed to be doing. They were just running around them in a circle. And I'm thinking, why aren't the forces doing anything? Of course, in the end, we find out why. We find out Dion wanted this to happen. He wanted Barry to shoot lightning at him so he could kill Iris for some reason. If that were not the plan, what did they think was happening? Why? For Mina and Eobard, they were just running circles around him and they weren't doing anything. Why didn't neither of them go, wait, why aren't they attacking us? Why aren't they trying to do anything? Like, Dion has the ability to just snap and freeze both of them, so why doesn't he? And nobody thinks to question why that is. Nobody thinks to question why they're just standing there in the middle of the two speedsters running around him going, any day now, Barry. Any day now. If you want to bring your lightning to us, please. We're just waiting for that. It's dumb. And again, no idea why Iris getting killed and then her tachyon particles or whatever going into Eobard causes the Harrison Wells Eobard to come out of that Eobard. That doesn't make any sense, but I'm sure they'll explain it away with some stupid sci-fi mumbo jumbo and like a 5-minute exposition scene. I don't care. Can we just get to the end of this, please? And I will also throw in the fact that I talked about it in the last episode, how Eobard Thawne, Reverse Flash being kind of the main villain, sort of worn out its welcome. We've had it so much. So seeing Dion kill him at the beginning of this episode, I was like, all right, well, you know what? Dion being a villain doesn't make any sense. This is before we knew he was a negative Still Force. But you know what? They had the balls to kill off the Reverse Flash. He's finally done. Give him credit for that. Nope. By the end of this episode, rectified. Reverse Flash is back, baby, because we have no other ideas of what to do than to just keep bringing him back and making him the main villain, because we're all tapped out of ideas. Here you go. Reverse Flash again. Enjoy. So with all that being said, though, that's it for this episode. On to the finale. I'm so excited to be done with this, at least for now. I'll see you there in a second. And finally, episode 20, negative part 2, or as I like to call it, sure, whatever. Because there's so much in this episode that it happens, and I just had to shrug my shoulders and say, sure, whatever. The writers wrote it in this way, so that's how it's going to happen. Not actually using anything clever, not actually using anything that kind of leads into... No, just things happen. Iris, she didn't die. The stone, the time stone or whatever that Damien Dark had, it decided, no, you're not supposed to die, so here, I'm going to save you. Sure, whatever. Apparently, the reason why Cecile's powers have been leveling up, it's because of Bashir, because he realized she was the only one that could find the rest of them, because Cecile is such an important character, guys. This is why she's got to be on the show more. She's got to get more powers and be more important to the story. Sure, whatever. We see Harrison Wells Thawne gets all of the negative forces inside of him, becomes some sort of... Did they give him a name? I don't think they did. Probably best that they didn't, because most of the names have been terrible recently. But he's just attacking everybody willy-nilly, because sure, why not? Barry shows up, can't stop him, because of course he can't. Everybody else gets snapped a billion years ago, because sure, why not? And then he starts to do this negative wave or whatever. Barry just sort of sits there and meditates, and all the negative power that he just released collapses back in on himself, and he disappears, because sure, whatever. Barry had some BS explanation about Eobard not being able to accept something or other. I don't even remember it anymore. It was so stupid. Apparently, the reason the negative forces were doing all of this is because Barry upset the balance by taking away the avatar of the negative force, took away his speed, and so that upset the balance, and so they realized, oh, the balance can be upset, so now we're going to do it. We're going to take away the positive forces, and we're going to take over. Sure, whatever. On the one hand, it does bring this whole season around full circle from the beginning with Armageddon to now, because Armageddon ended with Eobard having his speed taken away, and that leads into the final story beats here. But it's not interesting, and honestly, it doesn't even really make much sense. All of a sudden, the balance can be upset because of that. Not, oh, well, now we have to find a new avatar since that one lost his powers. No, it's got to be Eobard. And so that's why they infected Iris with the time sickness thing, and then had Barry kill her, and somehow the particles they put inside of her brought the other Eobard. Sure, whatever. But so much of this is just nonsensical, whatever made up stuff that they put it all together in a story. They wrote that this is how it makes sense, and so that's just how it makes sense in the story. And frankly, I just don't care anymore. I've stopped trying to use reason and logic within the confines of the show, because I can't pluck out individual details and say this doesn't make sense or this doesn't make sense. As a whole, it just feels messy. And the big one, I think, that does stand out as this is a huge plot hole that absolutely does not make sense is the idea of the forces. Because now all of a sudden it's the negative speed force. Eobard didn't discover it. Eobard didn't find it and put it in himself. No, it chose him. This is before all of the positive forces, the still, strength, speed, all of that, before all of those existed. Because I thought Barry and Iris created them that one time whenever they were working with the artificial speed force or what. I don't even remember now exactly how it worked, but I thought they were created because of that. But it sounds like they've existed forever. Maybe that makes sense, maybe it doesn't, I don't know. The idea that the negative speed force chose him, why then is Mina able to discover it and put it in herself? Why then is Barry able to access and get into, if it's a living thing that wants Eobard to be its avatar or whatever, why are other people able to access it? It just raises so many questions about what it's supposed to be. Why is Barry the avatar for all of the forces, seemingly, at the end of it, but Eobard is supposed to be the avatar for just the negative speed force, but then he's also the avatar for all of the forces, too? Does any of this make sense? No. It feels like it raises so many more questions about how the negative speed force and the negative forces and the positive forces, how all of those are supposed to interact. And again, the fact that the negative of all of these forces work the exact same way, the fact that they are basically just them but evil, to me is already really dumb. But the fact that those forces do exist as well, and they're just now showing up after Barry took away Thawne's speed force, the fact that they waited this long to do anything. Not just because, oh, well, we found out the balance can be tipped, so that's why we decided to act now. But the problem is they're acting like they've just always existed. Like, of course they always existed. Of course there's a negative to these forces. And I just feel like that's so lazy to write these villains in there and not even make them that interesting. They show up at the end of this. We don't even realize who they are until last episode. Apparently Negative Dion has been around for a while. We just didn't know it. But the idea of the negative forces has just been introduced to us and we're already done. I feel like a lot of these stories this season, it feels like the writers wrote them with the idea of we're introducing these concepts and we'll bring them back later. But the problem is you bring them back so late in the game and we've not even focused on them hardly at all, that all of a sudden it's just like, oh yeah, by the way, we're back and we're done. And I have no time to get connected to anything. Not that I could, because the writing on the show is so bad, I can't connect to any of it. But from a storytelling narrative perspective, you can't just introduce a concept and introduce a character or whatever, do all of that, and then just a few episodes later, you're done. You're done with the story. You're done. It's run its course. We're done with it. But that's what they've done most of this season. With Armageddon, we got introduced to it, and then 5-episode run, we're done. The idea of Deathstorm comes in, we're done. Iris's time sickness has been it's been there, but it's hardly been focused on. Then we'll get a couple episodes of focus, and then it's done. And then a couple episodes of focus, and then it's done. And now all of a sudden, here at the end, we find out what it's all been building to. And I'm sitting here going, okay, well, you just kept bringing it up and then putting it away, and then bringing it up and then putting it away. And so I keep forgetting about it. I keep forgetting it's even a thing until you talk about it again. Like, you can't just keep, oh yeah, by the way, here's a story about it. And then in a couple episodes here or there, by the way, remember, this is still a thing. Don't forget about that, because I'm not paying attention to that. I'm paying attention to whatever else is going on in the episode. You actually have to have time and thought put into these stories over a decent period of time if you want me to connect or in some way care about what's going on. And you're not doing any of that. You're just moving on to story after story, trying to fit in as much as you possibly can in one season. And it's jumbled, it's disconnected. It doesn't feel like a cohesive narrative to me. But moving on from the story, we also have more exposition, I don't even know what to call it really. Because to say it's empowering exposition, yeah, kind of. But it's just basically exposition to talk about how amazing characters are. And I feel like this show has an abundance of it. Every CW show has done it. I mean, at least all the CW DC shows that I've watched, they've all done it at some point where you have these long expositional speeches talking to a character and telling them how amazing they are. I feel like the Flash though has done it for longer than most and does it more often than most. I feel like most of the time you have one character who is doubting themselves in some way or downing on themselves, doing something to basically have another character step in and go, "Hey, no, you stop that. You're amazing." Or they set it up to where a character has to feel like they're against impossible odds and somebody has to tell them that no, it is possible because you're amazing. And I feel like it happens pretty much every episode with some character. It feels like every episode is a different character, but it always feels like it's happening. Somebody has to give a speech, a motivational speech to a character and get them up off their butts and get them moving again because they can do it. They're the best. They're amazing. In this one, obviously, it's the speech with Iris and Damien. Damien going through all these things about how she's supposed to have died so many times, but she doesn't. Why is that? And I'm just thinking, well, it's because the writers keep writing her out of that danger somehow. Yeah, it's a motivational speech for Iris to get herself out of the time stone. Cecile gets a little bit of one from Bashir, basically telling her how powerful she is and she's the only one that can save all of the forces. And I really don't understand the love affair that this show has with Cecile. At the end, she gives her powers back and she loses a lot of the power that she had at the end of this season. And then all of a sudden she has telekinesis. Why? What is the point of giving her more power? What is the point of continually just focusing on her powers and making her such a powerful character? I don't get it. What is so special about Cecile? Why does this show love her this much to keep forcing her into the main plot, whether it's you're giving us main villains that can only be stopped with her powers, or you're putting us in situations or scenarios where her powers are necessary to get people through what everybody's going through. It feels unnecessary, and yet we're still doing it. And can I also mention that we've completely gone away from the one instance of using her powers correctly when she was in the place that was being robbed and she moved somebody's emotions into one of the robbers. We saw that. We saw how it worked. We saw how she could do it. And I'm thinking that's a great way to represent her powers. Can we start doing that instead of having her continually make those stupid noises and then explain everything she felt? But no, we're sticking with that because we've not seen that since. They've not gone back to show don't tell. They did it one time and then we're back to just, no, we got to tell everybody everything. So I don't know if the woman playing Cecile is related to somebody on the show, if she's maybe a writer or producer. I don't know. It feels like whether it's the actress playing Cecile or it's Cecile the character is just somehow important to one of the writers or producers. Whatever the case, we've gotten a lot of focus on her over the past few seasons, and she's becoming more and more and more and more important to the team. Also, this is just a minor thing, but my brain notices things like this. The fact that she and Chester both take a sip out of their coffee cup, and then it cuts back to her, and she is not holding a coffee cup at all. She's just talking about, nope, that's not a decaf latte or whatever she got. And then that's basically setting up. She now has empty hands so she can pull the coffee cup toward her. I don't know. It's a simple thing. Like, show her putting the coffee cup down or show her doing anything with it. Don't just cut back and she's suddenly not holding anything because it makes it look like the actors forgot to pick the coffee cup back up whenever they reshot the scene or something. It looks like inconsistency in the filming. But with that being said, I mean, at least the story wrapped up. It didn't feel like they were leaving it on a big cliffhanger for the final season. I don't know what the final season is going to be about, but seemingly it's going to be about Negative Speed Force possibly coming back. I don't know what that blue crystal was supposed to be that was suddenly sparking with energy. I just don't know. I don't know what that's supposed to be. I guess I can also mention very quickly the fact that Nora and Bart came to help was once again stupid. I really, really hope, and I know they're not going to do this because they're probably going to keep using them to get themselves out of tough situations. I mean, the writing team, of course, but I really want them to stop doing time travel. Like, just stop, please. It's not well handled. It's not funny. Nora and Bart are not interesting characters. You haven't written them to be. And we're sitting there in the middle of this. We've got Bart cracking jokes while Eobard is going around killing all of these people. I'm tired of seeing that being used as either a crutch or as a way to shoehorn them back into the show because I'm guessing that people like them somehow. I just don't get why they're being focused on so much, why they continue to be utilized in this show whenever again, Flashpoint was a big deal a long time ago. When we saw what happened with Nora when she came back from the future, what problems that caused. It just feels like all of the danger of time travel and everything it could possibly cause just being completely ignored now. We're just not going to focus on it. We're just going to pretend like that's not a problem. It's not a problem that they continue to go back in time, continue to tell Barry about what the future holds, not all the details, at least some of the big picture stuff. It just feels like it's a terrible writing crutch. And they continue to lean on it because I'm guessing they're too lazy to think of other clever ways around stuff. So it's definitely something I don't want to see in the final season, but I have nothing to convince me that they're not going to because so far the writing team has shown they are nothing if not consistent in how bad they are and how frustrating their writing is. So all in all, not a good season. It was very frustrating. Armageddon was not that interesting. For a 5-parter, you would think that they would have a more interesting story, but it felt like they didn't have enough to fill up 5 episodes, so we were kind of dragging our heels in the first episode and then a little bit in the second one as well. And then ultimately the payoff was just not really that interesting to me either. And like I said, most of the season was very unfocused. It didn't feel cohesive as a story. It felt like we were jumping from story to story. Hell, the Killer Frost thing didn't even get resolved in this one. It was we hear her voice coming out of the pod. It's like, oh, I'm an old friend, and Mark just looking dumbfounded for like I don't even know. It felt like I was looking at his face for 10 seconds. He's just sitting there. Could you do something? Anything? Could you show us anything? No, we're just going to stay looking at his face? Okay, well, I guess maybe the ladies are happy about that. I don't know. It's stupid. But there are, once again, a lot of dumb writing decisions, dumb story decisions. Characters are not that interesting. I'm not invested in the show anymore. I feel like they lost me sometime last season and they've done nothing to get me back. And they pushed me further away this season with how ridiculous some of these stories were. Not to mention, I didn't even say this in the last one, but Barry sharing his identity with Mina, another person who finds out the Flash's identity. Can we stop that too? I know they're not going to, because again, it's another crutch that they can lean upon whenever Barry's going around trying to help people. It's like, well, just tell them who you are, Barry, then it makes it easier to talk to them whenever they know you're the Flash, because then you can share all these deep secrets in your life that I'm sure won't work against you if somehow they get captured and tortured for information, or if somebody threatens them now because they know who you are, or if one of them turns evil. Just keep telling everybody who you are, though, because I'm sure there are no repercussions for that. I don't get it, but here I am. I'm stuck in this awful wormhole of shit up until the end because like I said, I've invested so much time into this show. I want to see how it ends. I'm gonna see it all the way through. I don't know how. I don't know how I'm gonna sit through this anymore. I don't know how I'm gonna force myself to get through the final season, but I'm going to do my best. I'm going to do my best to look at it critically, look at it from a review standpoint, and try to pick apart all the stupid things that they decide to do. Because I'll admit, I was not at the height of my critiquing powers over the past set of episodes, because there were so many things that I just started to tune out because it was the same old shit that I've seen so often. I'm tired of it. I will say, do my best to focus in for the final season. With all that being said, though, those are my thoughts on the final 2 episodes. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What were your thoughts on these final 2, as well as the season as a whole? Let me know. We can talk about and discuss all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future Flash reviews. Also, check out the channel. We have a lot of other reviews on there, as well as some Let's Plays, so check those out if you have time. But until next time, I hope you guys have a great day. And I'll talk to y'all later. Peace out.